What is up, everyone? Happy
Day.
I don't know.
Happy day.
Happy day. These release on Mondays, but whatever day you're listening, I hope it's a good one. Today, we are talking about inflation, pricing, the cost of doing business, how much of that you should fill your clients in on, and probably more, because that's what we do. So, welcome back to the Hello Hair Pro podcast. My name is Todd. I am here with my wife and business partner, Jen.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Good.
So we are recording podcasts today. I had a little break because I had a phone call, and now we're back in the studio.
Today has been crazy busy.
All over the place.
Yeah.
So we have this conversation all the time, and stuff goes back a lot of times to just thoughts and things that we see on social media. So we see these posts often that are, I don't know really what the aim of the post is, but I'm sure it's different for everyone. But people will post like, unfortunately, due to the rising costs of gloves, foils, color, etc., my prices have to go up.
We tried to wait so long.
Yeah. So mistake. First of all, stop saying unfortunately.
Yeah.
Second of all, I don't personally believe that your clients need like an economics lesson.
Yeah.
And then, so I was thinking about this last week when I was putting together the show notes, and I thought maybe some of these people are trying to overly explain. And I used to see this in the gym world because they don't fully understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So by trying to explain it, it's like you sort of position yourself as like, you feel better because maybe this is a little more normal. I got this.
The one post I saw was like, gloves 5 years ago was this, now it's this. Foils were this, now
no one
it's
cares.
this. Not only that, like you
the
might
public,
think...
The public,
well,
they don't care.
I think the person that, when you're resharing it, you think that they do, and this is why you have to raise their prices. But what if they already thought your gloves and your foils cost 5 times more? So they're like, wow, your shit's that cheap and you're raising your prices? Like you don't know what their thoughts are. There's no need.
And you don't need to.
Right. And they don't need to understand really unless you want to tell that story, but they don't need to understand why you're raising your prices. Your prices are going up because everything you're buying is going up. And that's the way of the world. It's not just the hair industry.
No, it's the whole world. And I think so definitely with, again, I don't want to get crazy down the rabbit hole, but with the pandemic, there were supply chain issues. I don't believe most people even know what that really means.
Still bad.
Yeah, it's but those things happen either way, and there should be some sort of not accountability, that's not the right word, but there should be some sort of expectation on you as a salon owner, a shop owner, or an independent stylist, or anybody that just cares. Even if you're a stylist in a commission salon, you should still pay attention to things. Mm-hmm. Because when it comes time to raise your prices, you should understand the basics of why you would be raising your prices.
Right.
Sometimes it just breaks down to, I want to make more money.
Right.
That's okay. Generally, there's a demand somewhere that dictates you raising your price.
Correct.
And
that's normal.
So let's break down. So there are, I'm sure there's more, but there are 3 basic sort of causes to inflation. So I'll keep this as simple as possible. I made these little notes so that we didn't start getting crazy. So again, this is not economics class.
Thank God.
It's not. So
I hated economics.
There's what's called a demand pull inflation. So that's when the demand is higher than the ability to produce a product. When that happens, the prices go up. The market reflects that. So for example, again, this is all demand based. Say you are a baker and you make these really great cookies, but they take 3 days. There's this crazy process, and it takes you a long time, and it's just you're hustling, but you can't keep up with demand. That's what that is. So it's demand pull. So there's a demand. All the people in your town want your amazing cookies, but there's not enough supply. Therefore, you can charge more for those cookies. That's a version of inflation. Moving on, a cost push inflation is when a product cost increases. So demand might stay the same, but the availability of the product has gone down. So think of gasoline, right? When you don't have enough reserve, it's not that the demand changed.
Right.
It's that there's not enough to supply it. So cost goes up. And then I want people to really pay attention to this. And this is built-in inflation. And this is our expectation that costs are going to rise.
Always.
So this is what I'd argue is hurting most stylists, barbers, shop owners, whatever, is that built-in inflation. And why would that be? Well, I think really it's because people don't think about this stuff, and there's just, it hasn't been accounted for. And nobody's talking about this. I haven't seen anybody talking about built-in inflation ever. So not in this industry. And again, we don't have to get crazy with economics, but you have to understand that things are going to increase over time. So you can't do a whole lot with a supply chain issue. We'll get into it because you might be able to do some stuff if you think ahead. But if you can hear anything in the background, that's our coffee maker. And it sounds like it's almost done brewing, so I'm going to grab a cup of coffee when it's ready. But if we start to think about these things, I think that we can plan ahead for the future a little better. So built-in inflation, we know and understand that inflation is going to occur. There's no way around that. Things have never gone down below, a certain mark, we'll say. We, as human beings, we base like huge decisions on that, but we're not bringing it into our businesses. And so what's an example of inflation that we bank on? Well, what about buying a home? You buy a home, and most people would say, logically, that home is going to be worth more in the future than it is now. Why? Inflation.
Correct.
Whether it's people want to move into your neighborhood and there's less demand, whether it's the built-in inflation, whatever it is, whether it's they can't build enough homes fast enough, it doesn't matter. You always expect that the price of a home is going to increase over time. It would be silly if somebody said, no, it won't do that.
Right. It's your investment.
So, yeah, purchasing a home. So I think we actually, outside of business, I think we look at built-in inflation, especially with something like a home or an investment, and it gives you like a level of comfort. It gives you, if you hear that beep, that means the coffee is done. It's ready. But it gives you a little bit of comfort because I'm spending this money here, but I'm going to get a return on it in the future.
Yeah, you feel better about spending that money.
Right.
You're going to get it back.
So then my question becomes, why are we not raising our prices annually, at the very least, to keep up with the built-in inflation? Why are people just not raising prices? Why are you waiting till you're so stressed out when there's no logical reason for you to expect that prices are going to stay the same? They never have in history.
Do you want that answer?
Yeah, what do you think? I want a coffee. I'm going to grab a coffee.
I think I'm pretty spot on, that it's because people are scared to lose clients. So no, I'm going to wait. I think that there's this, I don't know where it is in the world, in the like hair industry, but it's just that two things this runs into. If I change my salon or if I raise my prices, all of my clients are leaving me, and I worked so hard to get where I am today, and everything's just going to drop out from under me, which is absolutely mathematically will not happen ever. Like it just won't. But we scare ourselves so much, so we just. Has
anyone ever seen that? So if you've seen this,
no, it's not possible. But
I don't think so. But if you've ever,
mindset.
If you've ever raised your prices and 100% of your clients left, or even the majority of your clients left, let us know. Well, because raising your prices, that's the point is that some clients leave.
Yeah, to
I
make
don't
room for
get
new
why
ones.
or-
Also, so then
I
what,
don't get why
what
people
people
don't
start doing
understand
is, I don't know, at barbers, I feel like they try to make their haircut shorter so they can fit more people in. Stylists try to triple, quadruple book so they can fit more people
Silly.
in. And their quality of life goes down the drain when really, in reality, what do you need to make by the end of the year? Your prices should reflect that. You have a better life. The clients that do come in, you can service them and give them all of your energy, and it's really just a better place to be. And I'm telling you, mathematically, you would not lose everybody. I've been through it. It's not a thing.
Interesting. So I think a lot of the issues could be solved. I say I think because I don't know anybody that's doing
it's our
it.
opinion
But
too.
it's my opinion that a lot of the people out there listening, salon owners, stylists, whatever you are, if you just accounted for the fact that there's built-in inflation in your economy and you raised your prices, even if it was 2%, 3%, something silly, you would keep up with at least that.
Right. And if you did that every year, then you wouldn't be behind and have to do some major increase at some point that then you're afraid.
Yeah, sure. I don't think this is much more of an issue than internal with the stylist or with the barber.
Yes,
it really is. It's because you're
fighting yourself in your head.
The public understands this. Mm-hmm. They understand it on different levels. They have homes. They have fucking news. They know there's inflation.
They're at the grocery store. Yeah.
When you have kids, like they're like, sometimes food costs more than it used to cost. Guess what? You pay it.
You don't have to like it, but I mean, it is the way of the world.
It's the way the economy works, though. So I'm just whacking everything over here. You also have to look at numbers, and there are costs to doing business that you don't really need. This is my opinion. I know Jen, well, I'll let you speak for yourself, but sometimes we don't always agree 100% on certain things and what you should advertise. And like, I personally don't believe that you should have to explain the cost of doing business to clients. That seems condescending to me. So when you tell somebody, hey, the price of gloves went up, I think, who the fuck cares?
I agree with that. Why
are you posting it?
I wouldn't post it.
Not you.
Yeah.
But
what I said was to the stylists out there that feel they need to post that because it's hard to conversation to raise their price, or you haven't wrapped your mind around raising your prices and how to like even deal with it on your own personal level. So a post like that, the way I think it should be utilized is if you don't understand how your business is run and you see that post, you're like, yeah, my stuff has gone up. Now you should already know your stuff went up. Maybe you need a new accountant to help you with that.
Well, you should know it's coming because built-in inflation, we just explained it.
Right, exactly. So that post to me, if you wanted to use it for your advantage would be, so you raise your prices, blank state, hey, my prices are up. This is where it's going. And then when that client, Susie, comes in and she's trying to process the price increase, she might ask you a couple questions and she's just processing it. And rather than you get reactive to Susie, you're just like, hey, Susie, my supplies have gone up, so I had to increase my prices. If you choose to tell Susie that, you don't have to. But that's where that post might give you like, oh, the world knows prices went up, so I feel comfortable raising mine and I'm going to use that piece of content to help talk to Susie. That's my example there.
Sure. Yeah. And again, I'm not arguing it. I don't think there's a right or wrong.
If you're ever in our salon, I talk about everything. And when I whisper, I'm really talking about something. So
when you whisper, I hear you.
Everybody hears everything.
Salon,
Jen's whispering. Listen to what she's saying.
So there's a lot of hidden nuggets in there. That's why there's value in eavesdropping. So again, I'm not saying there's one way to do things. I'm not saying that you have to never post things. You can do what you want. What I am saying is that if you just put a little bit of common sense into looking at your business and understanding that the costs are going to increase over time, well, it would make sense. It would be logical for you to counter that cost over time.
And you wouldn't be apologizing for doing it because you would understand that it just has to happen.
Right. And it's not a negative. It is. There's nothing negative about Netflix prices when they go up. Whenever you click it on, and it's like, I use that example all the time, but it's like, hey, your monthly bill was $16.99. You want to continue watching? It's $19.99. Or don't click watch.
Right. There's your
I just think, I wonder what cool shows are coming out. It is what it is, and you hit it, and that's it. They don't explain much. So operating a business, what costs, this is super basic stuff, but what costs do businesses incur? What costs do businesses take on, right? There's a cost to doing business. So a super basic principle is I purchase something, I increase the price of it, and then I sell it to someone else. That's as basic as you can get.
Makes sense.
So when you're running a salon, some examples are color, foils, gloves we talked about. There's a bunch of stuff though. You also need to account for paper towels, toilet paper, dish soap, hand soap.
All of that just went up.
Yeah, you have to
everything you're using.
You have to look
and that all affects that bottom line.
Mm-hmm. You have to look at other things. What other things do you need? You need electricity. You need water. Mm-hmm. You need an accountant. You need insurance. You need these things. So these are all you probably have a rent or an overhead. If you're a commission stylist, you might be thinking, I don't give a shit. But you should be able to talk to your owners, and I'm not saying they are going to share all their details with you, but we don't have anything to hide. If somebody asked, I would tell them. So you should think about other stuff as well that you need to do your job that's not maybe replaced on the daily, so that it's not a surprise, because there is a cost to doing business that you take on, occur. With tools, like you have scissors and they break or they dull and they need to be sharpened, or you need a new pair because you've advanced and you want to use new techniques. Or what about a chair? How often do people think about chairs? Mm-hmm. Well, eventually the mechanisms go.
Or your blow dryer starts whistling.
Or your blow dryer. We had that happen. And guess what? We had a backup blow dryer.
Yes.
If you didn't plan for that, though, we just would have been down a station.
Right. Huge.
I mean, we could have plugged in a blow dryer. I'm being dramatic, but we just don't have a blow dryer? No, you have to think ahead. And we don't have... No, we do. We have like 8 backup blow dryers. But you don't have to have a huge stockpile. You're not trying to become a little mini warehouse of furniture. Right. But if you think about these things and pay attention, then it's just not a shock over time. Our salon chairs, they're not cheap. I don't remember what they cost, but they're hundreds. Yeah, they're on the higher end, I would say. And I'm only pointing that out because we have to pay attention to, if one of these breaks or tears or whatever, what are our options? Can we repair it? Is there even a way to do that? I don't know. And this is a good practice for us too, because I don't think we've ever reached out to the company. Now we have a contact that is an in-between, because we've sort of built that in. So we would be able to reach out to him and he would be able to help us and guide us, and he would get it done quick for us. But if you don't have someone like that, get someone like that, or contact the company and say, hey, if this chair breaks, do you have to replace the whole chair?
Right. And it takes the stress off your plate too, because the worst thing, and I've had it before,
just being prepared
the chair breaks, and now you have to make the phone call, like, oh my God, can you even help me instead? Like, on Saturday, once the blow dryer was whistling, I'm like, we got to get rid of that. Hold on, I got one in my car. And the staff's like, you have a blow dryer. Wait, our blow dryer's from the ceiling. So like, you just have one in your car. I'm like, yeah, I have one in my car. It doesn't match, so I'm kind of annoyed, but it'll do the trick for now. And as we all know, everything's backed up, so it'll take a few weeks to get this one fixed. And at least we have a backup plan. So I wasn't even stressed. I'm like, give me a minute. It's just freezing cold out, but I can solve this problem.
So some of the other stuff that you have to account for and consider are things like fixed costs. You have your rent, and then, water, electricity. We talked about that stuff. You can't get around those. You have to account for them. If you've signed a lease, I hope you had a lawyer look at it, but you probably noticed in there that year 1 through 3 is a certain rate, and then it increases by a % or a dollar amount, or however they've written it into your lease for year 4, and then year 5 finally comes to a close at X rate per square foot or whatever. Well, guess what that landlord's doing? Accounting for fucking inflation. That's what they're doing. This space will be worth more in the future, which means you have to pay more for it in the future.
Right.
So that's why they write that stuff in.
That's a great example, actually, because most people will be like, oh, that makes sense. Like,
well, yeah, you didn't go to your landlord and you were like, hey, how come the price went up? and they didn't post on social media like, hey, unfortunately, due to the rising costs of
Right. This is
building
buildings. It is what it
buildings.
is. If you want to rent it for this long, this is what it's going to cost.
And I've never met a landlord that, we've had good landlords and bad landlords, but I've never met one that posted on social media explaining inflation to people.
Right.
It's just a weird practice to me. So then there are other things that we talked about insurance. We're big on having a lawyer. Hopefully you never need one, but you're going to need one if you don't have one. So definitely have one.
Make that connection.
You might have accounting fees, software, marketing, and all of those things can increase. Like, so we use a software program. I don't know if they've done a price increase recently, but I'm sure they've done price increases.
It's coming.
Yeah, or it's coming, right? And that's just things that you have to think about, and it's your responsibility to think about these things. Stuff's not easy, but it's necessary. And if you want to be on the plus side of the 8% profitable salon, or the salons that close within 5 years, or whatever, if you want to be on the good side of that, you got to pay attention to this stuff.
Absolutely. It's a big deal.
So, why do small businesses fail?
Oof.
I have a list. I always have a list.
I like lists.
So, lack of money.
Yeah. Not planning.
Right. And then, so I want to kind of break these down a little, exactly what you just said. So why is that? Why is there a lack of money? It could have been that you grossly underestimated, your value. Mm-hmm. Maybe you priced incorrectly. Maybe maybe your pricing structure was based on someone else's. I see that a lot. It is really snowing out. Yep. So if you look around at other salons and you base your pricing off of those, or an average of those, you're setting yourself up for failure, because you have no clue what their fixed costs are. You don't know what their rent is. Maybe they own the building. Maybe they have another business that pays for that space. Like, there are different ways to do things. Yeah. If they're paying $1,000 in rent, for example, to simplify this, and you're paying $10,000, well, you need to be charging more.
Way more.
And it's not about how many years you've been doing hair. It's about what you need to live.
Yeah.
And that should be okay, because that's literally how every other business operates. Mm-hmm. None of them are like, oh, well, this other business charges this, so we can't charge more than that.
Who are we?
They're like, no, we have to charge this.
It's based on what you need to make. I would say that.
So if you have a lack of money, you've got to figure that out. Now, it might just be that you're a new business and you need more clients to come in. So what does that look like? Either way, whatever the solution is, it's on you to figure out. That's the point of this episode.
Absolutely.
Just to get people to think about stuff. So, yeah, lack of money. What other examples could you have? Maybe you had maybe you're a salon owner and you had some stylists leave. So all of a sudden there's a lack of money. Well, guess what? People leave jobs, and you know that. So why weren't you prepared? I'm not saying it's always the easiest, and I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just saying, if we start to think about these things as an industry, it will help a lot of people out there. People move.
Well, and a part of it is too, you become complacent sometimes, or you're like, I just need a break. But yet the minute you do that, shit is shifting, and you're going to get caught in a way that you're just like, oh man, now I got to catch back up.
Right. So my next point I had here was failing to market online.
Yeah, that's huge.
And
that doesn't mean Instagram.
No.
Or Facebook, sorry, but it doesn't.
Man.
That's your walking business card. Check out that podcast. But your social media or your presence online, so when you're sleeping, your business is advertising for you it's a must.
Yeah.
Or you won't grow.
So we're actually going to do a podcast on digital marketing coming up. We have a guest. We're kind of waiting to get a little bit out of winter and organize some stuff, because some we're traveling for, which will be really cool. So we'll be podcasting on location. Ooh. Here we are live. And then other people, it's just a matter of schedules and nailing the time down. But we are going to do one on digital marketing, because I don't think people really understand what it can be used for.
I would agree. I didn't until even recently.
Yeah, digital marketing is not your Instagram page. I'm not saying there's not value
Right.
in Instagram.
Yeah,
that's
for
not
sure.
what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you've been relying on Instagram and you still lack funds, well, it's not working.
Yeah.
So either adjust your strategy, stop posting the back of people's heads, and post some sort of valuable content that gets people to click on your stuff. But you can meet with people, talk to people, hire people that will give you an actual online marketing strategy. And that's really what you need. And if you don't want to do it, you don't want any interest in it, pay somebody to do it.
Right.
But again, it's your responsibility, especially if you have a staff. If you're listening
Yeah.
and you have a staff that you want to, now it's a two-way street. They need to work on it too. But you have to be bringing people in.
I've met business owners recently. Like, I never have had to advertise. We're fine. And yet in the next sentence, when we're finally
6
talking,
months later, they're closing.
not even, it was like 10 minutes. And she was like, I'm drowning here and I think I'm going to close. I'm not going to renew my lease in April. And I'm like,
Wow.
you're not putting in the work. You're not trying to grow the space. And
You just said you were all set too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot
So
of, there's a lot of, that's a whole podcast
yeah,
episode.
it was pretty crazy. I was like, wait, you just, okay. I'm like, well, I have a guy. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, whatever.
Crazy. So yeah, lack of capital, failure to market online. So hiring or not hiring properly.
Yeah, that's huge.
So ignore what I just said. So not hiring properly
Yeah.
is a reason that your business will fail. You might have a stylist, for example, that brings in a ton of money. They're in the 6 figures. Everything is great, but they suck to be around. No one likes them. No
And
one
they're
can,
sucking the
and
life
they-
out of your business.
Yeah, they just
On the
kill
culture
the
side,
culture,
yeah.
and that's not worth it. And as an owner, that's your fault. That's your
And
responsibility.
I can tell you right now from my own experience.
And we savagely protect our culture.
Yeah, at Hello. So my last salon, a little different, and we had a good amount of
It's good coffee.
top earners, I'll say, but you sometimes at that point in my life as a leader in my business, I was making decisions based off not for my business, but off the people that were there and the money they were bringing in. And when you keep that toxic person, you will eventually lose everybody else.
Yeah.
If not all of them, majority of them. And if the first one that comes in and they tell you they're leaving and it's because of X person and you don't do anything about it, then when the next person comes in and you still don't do anything about it, it's on you. And it may be a hard conversation or a hard decision to make, but when those people are leaving and it's the same reason, you've got to look at yourself and you've got to make some major changes.
I agree. I think too many people are held hostage by their staff.
And that's how I felt at the time, actually.
And
Held
too many
hostage,
people
yeah.
are held hostage by what they believe their
Yes.
clients want.
Agreed. Yeah,
And we'll
on
touch
both
on
sides.
we'll touch on that in a second too, what I mean by that. But
I would agree.
so another reason that your business might fail is that you haven't actually built a business.
Yes.
So there's nothing. There's nothing.
Your logo
There's
and
no
your
value.
paint on the walls does not mean you have a business.
So Jen jokes about that a lot. Like you have a logo on a door and paint on the wall. That does not mean you have a business. Here's what she means by that. We've talked to a few people recently who have asked, like, because we've been seeing salons in the area are closing.
Yeah,
They just
it's
are.
sad.
And it is sad. It's unfortunate. Now, you can blame inflation, which is what we're trying to get away from. You can blame other people. You can blame whatever. But the reality is you didn't keep up with the times or you don't want to do it. Again, it could have been the straw on the camel's back, whatever the saying is. I'm just done with this and don't want to do it, but I don't feel like saying that. So I'll say inflation. It just, some people might not know even what the problem is.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it
They
doesn't
might be
make
so
it
overwhelmed.
any
and-
less of your responsibility though.
Correct. I think I do think the mistakes that happen is you're so overwhelmed. There's so many things. And by the time it's showing up in front of you how bad your situation is, it's really most often too late to get help because your drive is gone, your energy is gone, your passion is gone. And
Yeah.
there's so much work that's going to be to get back to where you need to be that you probably don't have it.
That's why
And
I say it could be the straw that broke the
Yeah,
camel's back.
and it's
because
like you needed-
It's not that you can't do it. It's that
10 steps ago, you needed to ask for help before you got to this point. Now,
that's a nugget right there. So you need to start thinking 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Like we think I don't have a very clear vision, but we're actually in the process of this. Like, what is 5 years from now?
Right.
What is 10 years from now? What does 15 years from now look like? That stuff can change, but unless you're thinking about it, you're going to get blindsided at some point.
Agreed.
So back to the point I was making, recently a salon had closed, and we were asked by a few people, why wouldn't they just sell the business?
Right.
Well,
your furniture isn't
there's anybody can buy furniture.
Yeah.
Anybody can lease a space. Anybody can create a logo.
Yeah.
It takes 10 seconds. So, and I'm not taking away from those things.
No.
But those things don't mean you have a business. There's
sell.
no value in depreciated equipment that's
Right.
10 years old. There's just not. So that I guess what I'm trying to circle back to is there was no business to actually sell, because what would somebody be purchasing? They're purchasing old equipment,
A space that they need to rent or
taking
lease.
over a lease. They're not
Yeah.
really purchasing anything from you. The thing you could, and I heard this recently, consider into if you were trying to value your business, you could, if you had the right buyer that was open-minded and was looking steps ahead, you could factor in your audience. So, and I know that when a business gets sold, it doesn't mean the staff stays on.
Right.
But it does mean that when I purchase a business that I have access to those people for X amount of time, at least I can have the conversation.
Right.
It also means that I have a book of clients that I can reach out to. It also means I have connections that person had built. So if there's a way to monetarily factor those in, and I'm sure somebody out there, I actually know somebody that I could reach out to and have this conversation because it would be fun. But if you could factor some of that
will be
stuff
part of
in,
your sale, right?
Yeah. Other than that,
If somebody wanted a turnkey salon with equipment in it, it may come staffed or not, but you can monetize. Is that what you do?
Sure.
All of that stuff, like the client list and all of that. You could be like,
access.
Hey, then you're like,
there's an audience.
Yeah.
There's some value in that to somebody that's forward thinking.
And you may not be selling it for much, but you might get something, and
it's
they
just
are absorbing.
It's something else to think about. The other thing that you need is systems and things in place, because if as a buyer of a business, if I came in to purchase an existing business, I would want to know exactly how it runs day to day. I don't want you to tell me.
Right.
Tell me where the book is.
Yeah.
Tell me where I go online to see it. Where are the videos, the training videos? Where are your processes? Where's this stuff written down? And if you don't have it written down, you don't have it. Because even a handbook has value when you are selling or purchasing a business. So you have to start thinking about these things. Don't get shocked if you want to sell your business and people just chuckle, because you're trying to sell them hopes and dreams. Like, look at me, I made it. I'm like, you're trying to get out. You're trying to sell it. If it was a money-making cash machine, you should be able to walk away and not sell it and just cash the checks, right? But for some reason, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
So what else do we have? So, this is a big one. So failing to listen to your customers. This is a really big one. So your customers will tell you, if you listen to them, what they want. Now, does that mean you go out and you do a survey? No, I don't believe in that sort of stuff. But if you want to, go for it. But you're going to get the loudest noise from the people that matter the most and spend the least. That's just how things work. But if you went up to your good customers, your clients, whatever you want to call them, that respect your time, they pay your prices, they are just awesome, and you want more of those people, first of all, you can go out and read a book called The Pumpkin Plan, because that'll help you a lot with that. I'll put the link below, but I think it's Mike Mikolowicz. And you have conversations with these people. Hey, what can we do better? What would you like to see? That sort of stuff. There's a lot of value in that.
And it doesn't mean you run out and do it right away.
Nope. That's not what I said.
I know, but that's what people will hear. You're gathering information, and then you decide as the owner, maybe what you want to implement the next quarter, what makes sense for you, or maybe none of it does. You're just gathering information. But
the point is you're gathering information because you're thinking about the future.
Throw that into your whatever you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, it's for your future plan.
So, quick story, because Jen generally tells stories, and she hasn't in a little bit. I don't feel like you told a story in the last episode.
I don't think I had any. That's why.
All right.
That were like relatable.
So, I owned a gym for like maybe a year or two. And I had become friends on Facebook with someone that owned a gym. This guy was successful. He was in New York City. He was doing all this cool shit. And I was like, I want to do that stuff. I want to like do what he's doing. And I thought it would be cool. So I reached out to him. And I didn't know him other than following him on social media and whatever. And I reached out and I was like, I want to do what you're doing. And he was like, no, you don't. Do you have time for a phone call? And I was like, no, I don't. What the hell? So we spoke, I think, for like an hour. He gave me of his time. It was awesome. And one of the things I remember, and this was 13, 14, 15 years ago, he said, Todd, I've never done anything I wasn't asked to do. So he had a clothing line and he was like, I was asked to do that. And so that opportunity came to me. I think what so many of us do is we're like, we have this great idea. The public's going to love it. And then when the public doesn't love it, we don't know what to do. Yeah. But no one asked for that.
Right.
So, I've known people that have had restaurants that are like, well, the community didn't understand what I was trying to do with my food or whatever. Well, did you ask them?
Did you ask them what they wanted?
Yeah, maybe you could have had the best sandwich shop in the world, but you wanted, I don't know, like a fine dining restaurant. Yeah. Or vice versa. Maybe you're like, I love sandwiches, but you're in a part of town that wants that could use a higher end restaurant. Like, I don't know. And I'm not saying you have to do everything.
No, but you should take it into consideration.
Yes. What does the public want?
Because if you're so far out there, then you're like, why didn't that work? Well, nobody either understood what you were doing, wanted what you were doing.
Failing to market online. Yeah. You have to educate the public too on what you're doing. So yeah, I think that's very backwards how most of us create these things in our head. We think, well, I'm good at this, so somebody should pay me for it.
Right.
Not always the case. You can maneuver around, and obviously, like, if you're great at hair and you're like, well, I'm not going to not do hair. That's not what I'm saying, but like next level, like what is you doing hair really look like?
Right.
Just stuff to think about. This is a big one. So small businesses fail because they just fail to adapt or change.
Yes. I think that's probably
this goes with this inflation topic, and it's coming, but you don't do it because you're either scared or you don't understand it.
It's the best time to not be stubborn.
If you are, maybe you're stubborn. So if you're stubborn, that's your fault. Get a coach, get some help. If you're scared, that's your fault. I guess that you're not doing anything about it. Get a coach, get some help. If you don't understand it, get a coach or get a book or read YouTube, watch YouTube or whatever.
You need someone to help you talk through it. Where are things going, and how do you adapt to where that is, and in your own version too, not what everyone else is doing.
Right. Don't do what everyone else is doing. So there's this trend that we've noticed where people think for some reason that booth rental is the future.
Right.
Booth rental is not the future. It's the now. People are already renting booths. What are you talking about?
Been forever. So it will look different in the future.
Right. This is not new. So if you're just coming on to that, for example, again, I'm not saying booth renting is bad. I'm not saying don't open a booth renting
and it's
business.
not that it won't continue. It won't be what it is today.
Correct. That's not the future. It's the now. So moving on, failing to track metrics, I think, is a big one.
Huge.
Understanding your numbers, knowing your business, knowing... obviously you're going to know what you pay for rent, but is there something that you can solve ahead of time? It could be something small, like knowing, let's pick something, paper towels. Paper towels probably going to go up over the course of 5, 8, 10 years, right? Maybe there's a sale and you buy extra. Right. Again, little things that just prove that you're thinking ahead.
Especially if it's stuff you are using on
no matter
the
what.
Norm.
Yeah.
You should, even the big companies that you buy your products from for your color and your foils and all that. Try to stock up when there's a sale. Then also, if there's a part where you can't get stuff, you've got a backup. Obviously, you don't want to house and be a warehouse. But,
no, don't do that.
if there is a sale and it truly saves you money, and you go through this many pairs of gloves, boxes of gloves in a month, well, get the month's supply with the 20% off. Why not? You're going to use them anyway, but you're saving the money.
Right. Also, when it comes to things like supply chain, have you had a conversation with a distributor? Have you asked them, hey, what happens if we can't get something? Probably not. You should. Why not have the conversation and say, like, so that they might say, we've talked to distributors lately that are like, we have X amount of stock because this shows this and these patterns and et cetera. Great. I feel okay with those people because they have a plan. They're thinking about the future.
Right. And I'd say a one up there or something to add to that is new to me. I've been, in the hair industry for so long, and my second salon I've owned. But what we did differently with Hello is we had meetings with all the distributors in the area. So now I'm not stuck. If one distributor can't get me something, I now have a connection with someone else, and I'm like, hey, I can't get my gloves over here. What do you guys have for gloves? What does that look like? Where if you don't have that and now you can't get it, now you have to create a relationship where you're scrambling to like find your stuff. So it makes sense to have these connections, whether you're using them for their products or not. But in different scenarios, you may need to reach out and ask them for some help. And now you've already established that relationship.
Correct. So I think we can wrap this up. So if you're not marketing online, you're not thinking ahead into the future, if you're an owner and you're not paying attention to your hiring, if you haven't built an actual business, if you aren't taking into consideration what clients want, if you're not adapting and changing, if you're not tracking any sort of metrics, then you cannot possibly blame something like inflation, which is coming. Mm-hmm. You have to do all these other things. Yeah. You really don't have an excuse anymore.
No.
Stop hiding behind your keyboard. All right. So hopefully that helps people out there. I know I'm a smart ass when it comes to this stuff, but I hope that it helps. I just want to help people and have them think about it.
Absolutely.
So,
and even to the, the stylist that works for the owner, you may never have thought of that stuff and you may not care, but also like, oh, that's why we're having a price increase. Like that makes sense. Like I know for me, if you give me the information and I have the knowledge, I'm like, oh, once it makes sense, I'm like, this is cool. I'm all behind it. So sometimes you might be like, oh, I should ask them, like, why are they doing it? Why are they raising their prices by 2%? What was their theory? Get that information, like, oh, that totally is cool.
I agree. So jump on our website. If you need help, there's a button on our website now. You can book a call. It's a free call. We'll just talk to you. We've done a couple. Yeah, it's been really fun. Follow us on Instagram. I'll put the pumpkin plan down below in the notes.
That's a good one.
And I guess we will see you next time. That's it.
All right.
I hit the music without asking if you had anything else.
I didn't, so it's all good.
I figured. It is all good because it's too late. Thanks for listening. We appreciate everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.